A Japanese refrigerator is not treated like a cold storage room. It is treated more like a countdown board. Open many refrigerators in Japan, and you may notice something strange. There is food inside, of course, but there is often very little food that has been sitting there for weeks, forgotten behind bottles, slowly changing color until someone finally asks, "Is this still safe to eat?" That small difference tells you something important about Japanese daily life. In many homes, the goal is not simply to keep food cold, the goal is to make sure food keeps moving. Bought today, seen tomorrow, used soon, gone before it becomes waste, and this changes the entire relationship people have with a refrigerator. Because one of the easiest ways to waste money is not buying expensive food, it is buying ordinary food and then forgetting it exists. A block of tofu that disappears behind a jar, vegetables pushed into the bottom drawer, milk opened once and ignored, mushrooms bought for one meal but never used again, a small leftover placed in a container with good intentions, then discovered 10 days later. None of these things feels expensive when you buy them. But repeat this every week, and your refrigerator quietly becomes one of the most expensive places in your home. Many Japanese households avoid this through a very simple idea. Do not make the fridge a waiting room. Food should have a destination. If something enters the refrigerator, there should already be some idea of when it will leave, and once you begin noticing this habit, you start seeing why certain foods almost never get the chance to expire. Not because Japanese people have some secret refrigerator, not because every household follows the same rules, but because several everyday habits make forgetting food much harder. Here are 8 things many Japanese households rarely allow to sit forgotten until they expire, and the simple habits behind them. And some of these habits may completely change the way you look at your own refrigerator. Lesson 1. Tofu doesn't enter the fridge without a plan. The first food is one of the simplest foods in Japan, tofu. Walk through a Japanese supermarket, and you will often see many kinds of tofu in small, easy-to-use packs, and that packaging already teaches us something. Instead of buying a huge amount and hoping it gets used eventually, many people buy an amount that fits the meals they are likely to cook soon. That sounds obvious, but think about how most food waste begins. We rarely buy something thinking, "I am going to throw this away next week." We buy it because it looks useful. Maybe it is healthy. Maybe it is on sale. Maybe we imagine 3 different meals we could make with it. Then life happens. Plans change. Another meal sounds easier. We order food. We eat outside. And suddenly the healthy ingredient we bought with such confidence is sitting untouched in the refrigerator. Tofu does not give you much time to behave like that. Once opened, it needs attention. So in many Japanese homes, tofu is connected to a meal before or soon after it is purchased. Maybe it goes into miso soup. Maybe it is served cold with simple toppings. Maybe it goes into a hot pot. Maybe it is cooked with vegetables. The important part is not the recipe. The important part is this: the food already has a job. That is a powerful refrigerator rule. Before buying something, ask, "What meal is this for?" Not, "Could I possibly use this?" Those are completely different questions. "Could I use this?" fills refrigerators. "What meal is this for?" empties them. You can apply this to almost anything. If you buy tofu, know roughly when you will eat it. If you buy cream, know why you need it. If you buy herbs, imagine the dish. If you buy vegetables, connect them to a meal. You do not need a complicated weekly food chart. You simply need fewer ingredients entering your home without a purpose, because food without a purpose becomes food without urgency, and food without urgency is exactly what ends up hiding behind everything else. The lesson from tofu is simple. Do not buy possibilities, buy meals. Your refrigerator becomes easier to manage the moment every fresh ingredient has somewhere to go. Lesson 2. Natto survives because it becomes a routine. The second food is famous in Japan, and depending on who you ask, it is either loved or very difficult to understand. Natto, fermented soybeans, strong smell, sticky texture, definitely memorable. But the interesting part for us is not whether you would enjoy eating it. The interesting part is how foods like natto often become part of a repeated routine. Breakfast, a quick side dish, something served with rice, something eaten often enough that nobody needs to suddenly remember it. And that reveals another powerful reason food expires. We often think food waste happens because we bought too much. Sometimes that is true, but food also gets wasted because it has no regular moment in our lives. You buy something because it looked interesting. Then every day you open the refrigerator and choose foods you already have a habit of eating. The unfamiliar item keeps losing. Monday, you ignore it. Tuesday, you ignore it. Wednesday, you think, I should use that soon. Thursday, you push it aside. Friday, you order dinner. And by Sunday, the food has turned into a responsibility. This is where routine becomes surprisingly powerful. When a food belongs to a routine, remembering becomes almost automatic. Think about your own kitchen. You probably have certain foods that almost never expire. Maybe eggs, maybe bread, maybe coffee, maybe yogurt. Why? Not necessarily because they last longer, because you have an existing behavior connected to them. You know when you use them. Natto often works in the same way. It does not sit in the fridge waiting for inspiration. It belongs somewhere. And this is something anyone can copy without eating a single soybean. Create a few repeatable food patterns. Maybe yogurt and fruit in the morning. Maybe leftover vegetables in an omelet. Maybe soup on one evening each week. Maybe a simple use what is open lunch. Once food has a repeated place in your week, it becomes harder to forget. This is why simple meals can actually save more money than impressive meal plans. You do not need 40 recipes. Sometimes you need 5 reliable meals that can absorb whatever is already sitting in the refrigerator. Have mushrooms? Put them in the soup. Half an onion? Into the stir fry. A small amount of cabbage? Add it to noodles. 1 egg left? That can become breakfast. The lesson from natto is, food disappears before it expires. When eating it becomes automatic. The best anti-waste system is not always stronger memory. Sometimes it is stronger routine. Lesson 3. Fresh fish is treated like a timer, not a trophy. The third food is where refrigerator discipline becomes much more serious. Fresh fish. Japan is famous for seafood, but fresh fish teaches a lesson that has nothing to do with sushi. Fresh food has a clock. You cannot argue with it. You cannot tell a piece of fish, I spent money on you, so please remain perfect until I feel like cooking. Fresh fish does not care about your schedule, and because people understand this, it is much more likely to be bought with short-term use in mind. This produces a very different shopping mindset. Instead of treating every grocery trip like preparation for a small emergency, many households make smaller purchases more often. That can be easier in places where supermarkets, convenience stores, and neighborhood food shops are nearby. But the idea still works anywhere. The shorter the life of the food, the shorter the buying horizon should be. If something will stay good for months, buying ahead may make sense. If something needs to be eaten quickly, buying 7 days of it at once may create pressure. Fresh fish is a perfect example. You buy it because you expect to use it, not because the package looks beautiful, not because you might become the type of person who cooks fish 4 times this week, not because there was a discount that made buying twice as much feel clever. This is one of the strangest traps in grocery shopping. We sometimes waste money in order to save money. A product is discounted, so we buy more, then we cannot finish it. Half goes in the trash. The supermarket discount saved 10%. The food waste cost 50%. That is not saving. That is paying less per item while spending more overall. Fresh fish forces you to think differently. Quantity matters. Timing matters. Dinner plans matter. This thinking can be applied to berries, meat, herbs, soft fruit, prepared foods, and almost anything with a short life. The question becomes, how much can I realistically eat before this begins losing quality? Not, how much can I fit into my refrigerator? Those 2 questions create completely different kitchens, and there is another useful habit here. When something is extremely fresh, do not hide it. Make it visible. Foods that need attention should not be buried at the back of the refrigerator. Put them where your eyes naturally go. The refrigerator has cold zones, but it also has psychological zones. The back becomes invisible. The front becomes urgent, so place quick-use food where you can see it. The lesson from fresh fish is powerful. Perishable food should be bought according to time, not appetite. When you respect the clock of the food, the expiration date rarely gets the chance to surprise you. Lesson 4. Milk and yogurt are bought for real life, not fantasy life. The 4th item is actually a pair that appears in refrigerators around the world, milk and yogurt, and they expose one of the biggest reasons we waste food. We shop for the person we hope to become, instead of the person we actually are. You know this version of yourself, the supermarket version. This week, you are definitely going to wake up early. You will eat a perfect breakfast. You will make smoothies. You will cook every evening. You will eat salad every day. You will stop buying snacks. You will become a completely different human being, starting immediately after checkout. Then Tuesday arrives, and Tuesday has other plans. This is why milk and yogurt can become surprisingly useful teachers. In many Japanese supermarkets, you can find products in modest sizes. That makes sense in homes where refrigerators may be smaller and people may shop more regularly. But the deeper principle is universal. Buy for your real consumption speed. A bigger package is only cheaper when you finish it. Otherwise, the smaller package may actually cost less. Imagine one person drinks very little milk. A giant carton may have a lower price per milliliter. Wonderful. But if 1/3 gets poured down the sink, that lower unit price means nothing. The same happens with yogurt. People buy large tubs because they appear economical. Then they eat yogurt twice. The tub slowly moves toward the back. A new container gets placed in front, and now the refrigerator contains a tiny archaeological site. The smarter question is not, which package gives me the most food for my money? It is, which package gives me the most food I will actually eat? That last part changes everything. And there is another useful habit many organized households follow. Once something is opened, it moves up the priority list. An unopened item can wait. An opened item has started its countdown. This means you do not open 3 similar products at the same time unless necessary. Finish one, then open the next. This simple rule can dramatically reduce forgotten food. 1 open milk carton. 1 open yogurt. 1 open sauce when possible. 1 open package before the backup package, because every open container creates another small deadline, and too many deadlines eventually become invisible. The lesson from milk and yogurt is, your refrigerator should match the life you actually live. Do not shop for imaginary discipline. Shop for your real habits. That is how ordinary groceries stop becoming ordinary waste. Lesson 5. Eggs are managed by order, not by guessing. Number 5 is one of the most common foods in Japanese cooking, eggs. Eggs appear everywhere. Breakfast, rice dishes, noodles, lunchboxes, soups, simple home meals. And because they are used so often, they usually have something many forgotten foods do not have: rotation. Older eggs are used before newer eggs. That sounds almost too simple to mention. But look inside many refrigerators and you will see the opposite system. New food enters. New food gets placed in front. Old food gets pushed backward. Then another shopping trip happens. More new food comes in. The old food gets pushed even farther back. Eventually, the refrigerator becomes organized by purchase excitement instead of age. The newest thing gets the best position. The oldest thing becomes invisible. A simple kitchen rule fixes this. New goes behind, old comes forward. Stores use versions of this system constantly. Homes can use it too. When you buy another carton of eggs and still have a few left, do not make the new carton the easiest one to reach. Use the older eggs first. Do the same with yogurt, drinks, butter, packaged tofu, sauces, prepared foods, anything you buy repeatedly. Your refrigerator should quietly tell you, eat this one first. You should not need to remember 10 dates. The position of the food can do part of the remembering for you. And there is something else interesting about eggs in Japan. Expiration guidance often matters, especially when eggs may be eaten less cooked or raw, a practice that requires careful production and handling standards. But for the everyday shopper, the larger lesson is still very simple. Dates should be noticed before they become urgent. A date is useful when you see it early. It is useless when you discover it after it has passed. Some people check expiration dates only when they become suspicious of the food. They smell it, look at it, turn the package around, then discover the date. But a better habit is noticing the date when the product enters the fridge. You do not need to memorize it, just understand the order. Which eggs are first? Which yogurt is first? Which pack should be opened first? That one tiny bit of awareness removes a lot of uncertainty later. The lesson from eggs is, a good refrigerator has a cue. When older food naturally moves toward you, expiration stops being a surprise. Lesson 6. Leafy greens and mushrooms are not allowed to become invisible. Now we reach things number 6 and 7. Leafy greens and mushrooms. These are dangerous foods for one simple reason. They can look wonderful when you buy them, and very sad only a few days later. Spinach, cabbage, green onions, leafy vegetables, shiitake mushrooms, shimeji mushrooms, enoki mushrooms, other fresh vegetables used in everyday Japanese meals. They do not need to be expensive to waste a surprising amount of money. And their biggest enemy is not always time. Their biggest enemy is invisibility. The vegetable drawer is useful, but it can also become a hiding place. You close the drawer, you stop seeing what is inside, and anything you stop seeing becomes easier to forget. That is why one of the smartest refrigerator habits is not about temperature, it is about visibility. You should be able to answer a simple question: what fresh food needs to be used next? If you cannot answer without searching through the refrigerator, your system is making waste easier. Many Japanese meals naturally help with this because they can use small amounts of many ingredients. Soup can absorb vegetables, noodles can absorb vegetables, hot pot can absorb vegetables, stir-fried dishes can absorb vegetables. A lunchbox can use a small leftover portion. This flexibility matters, because food waste often happens when we think every ingredient needs a special recipe. Half a cabbage does not need an event. 3 mushrooms do not need a new recipe video. A few green onions do not need a perfect dish. They simply need somewhere to go. This is a powerful mindset shift. Instead of asking, "What can I cook tonight?" sometimes ask, "What needs to disappear tonight?" That question reverses the normal meal planning process. Instead of choosing a recipe and then buying ingredients, you look at the ingredients that already need attention and build the meal around them. 3 mushrooms? Use them first. Half an onion? Use it. Spinach starting to soften? Tonight is spinach night. A small piece of cabbage? Into soup. This is how flexible cooking saves food. And there is another small trick. Do not keep every vegetable in the package exactly as it came from the store if that makes it hard to see or use. Prepare food in ways that reduce friction. If washing or cutting something early is appropriate for that ingredient and safe storage method, having it ready can make it easier to use. Because the harder something feels to prepare, the more likely we are to choose something else. And every time we choose something else, the clock keeps moving. The lesson from leafy greens and mushrooms is: visible food gets eaten, hidden food gets old. Make your refrigerator show you what needs attention. Do not make yourself search for it. Lesson 7. Leftovers are given a deadline before they become a mystery. The 8th and final thing is something almost every household has: leftovers. And leftovers have a strange life. On the first day, they feel valuable. This will be perfect tomorrow. On the second day, they still look useful. I can have that for lunch. Then another meal appears. Plans change. The container gets moved. Another container gets placed on top. And suddenly, the leftover loses its identity. You open the refrigerator and stare at a box. What is that? You open it. You think. You smell it. You try to remember what day you cooked it. At that point, the system has already failed. A leftover should never become a mystery. This is where Japanese habits around portioning, lunchboxes, reheating, and freezing can be useful. The key idea is simple. Decide the next life of the food while you still remember it. If dinner remains tonight, do not just put it in the fridge and say, "I will eat this sometime." Sometime is where leftovers go to die. Instead, make a quick decision. Tomorrow's lunch. Tomorrow night's side dish. Freeze it. Use part of it in another meal, but give it a destination. This is especially important with cooked rice. Freshly cooked rice is deeply connected to everyday Japanese meals, but excess rice does not need to sit in the refrigerator until it becomes dry and unpleasant. Freezing individual portions can preserve it better for later use, and that points to a bigger lesson. The freezer is not where forgotten food should go. It should be where intentionally saved food goes. There is a huge difference. A bad freezer says, "I don't want to throw this away, so I'll hide it here." A useful freezer says, "I know exactly why I'm saving this and roughly how I'll use it." One is delayed waste. The other is storage. You can make this even easier by keeping portions small. A giant container of leftovers requires another giant meal. Small portions can become lunch, a side dish, a quick dinner, something added to another meal. Smaller portions give food more chances to be useful. And this connects with one of the strongest habits behind efficient Japanese home kitchens. Small amounts are respected. One small piece of carrot can still be used, a little rice can still become something, a few vegetables can join soup, half a serving can become tomorrow's lunch. Food does not need to be a complete meal to deserve saving, but if you save it with intention. This is where many people lose money, not in the supermarket, not at the restaurant, but inside 10 small containers they promised themselves they would eat later. Each container may contain only a little food, but multiply that over a month, then a year, and the amount becomes enormous. So create one simple rule. When leftovers enter the refrigerator, know their next destination. Eat soon, repurpose soon, or freeze intentionally. Do not let them become anonymous boxes, because once you forget what something is, you will probably forget why you were saving it. The lesson from leftovers is, food needs a next step, not just a container. The bigger Japanese fridge rule. Now look at all 8 foods together. Tofu, natto, fresh fish, milk and yogurt, eggs, leafy greens, mushrooms, leftovers. At first, they seem unrelated, but they are connected by one powerful idea. Food keeps moving. That may be the real secret. The refrigerator is not treated as the final destination of food. It is only a temporary stop between buying and eating. And once you understand that, several Japanese food habits begin making more sense. Smaller purchases, frequent use of fresh ingredients, simple repeatable meals, visible storage. Using older items first, turning small amounts into side dishes, planning around what is already open, freezing food intentionally instead of forgetting it. None of these habits is dramatic, and that is exactly why they work. You do not need an expensive smart refrigerator. You do not need 20 storage containers with matching labels. You do not need a complicated meal planning app. You only need to stop asking your refrigerator to remember everything for you. Give food a job. Give leftovers a next meal. Keep urgent food visible. Buy realistic quantities. Open fewer packages at once, move older food forward, and before shopping again, look inside the refrigerator first, because the cheapest food you can buy tonight may be the food you already paid for 3 days ago. And perhaps that is the most useful lesson Japanese food culture can teach us. Saving money does not always begin with buying less expensive things. Sometimes it begins with something much smaller, using what you already have before it becomes something you have to throw away.